So we're going to talk this evening about phrasing and musicality. The first thing I would like to do is share my screen with you. This is a sort of PDF PowerPoint that I pinched from Joe Braham, which we used on the One Voice song. So musicality is the capability to bring to life the music and the lyrics. I thought that was a really interesting thing to think about when we're singing this song, because we sort of think about musicality and we think, yeah, we know what that means, but actually I wasn't entirely sure, and I did a little bit of Googling, and so that idea really helped me. So we're communicating a sincere message of genuine emotion. I've got some other bits and pieces as well to talk through, but just a few ideas of things that we can use to help our musicality. We can add texture by changing sort of the tone of our voice. We can use dynamics, and there are dynamics written on this song. And although Simon can turn us up and turn us down a little bit in terms of volume, if we can put our dynamics in, that's really great. And it's going to add a lot of colour and interest to the recording as well. Using your use of breath. I know some of the breath points possibly people might not think they're quite in the right places. If you don't think they're quite right in terms of the phrasing and the sort of emotion that you're trying to get across, if you don't need them, I guess you can drop them. And if you do need to put them in ninja breathing, then please do so. Connecting the phrasing, the contouring and the shaping of the phrasing, and adding mood and emotion. Obviously, performance, we've got this little tiny square of our faces that we're going to sort of get across in terms of our performance visually, but we're also talking about the performance of our voice and the sound of our voice and how that's coming across. So it's a few ideas, these were from Joe, a few ideas that might help you out. Have an awareness of the lyric, what the lyric's talking about, what it means. I actually wrote it out yesterday because I was at the point where I was looking at the score, and actually the score was putting me off. I didn't need to look at the words, the notes and the melody, but I did need to look at the words. So I wrote that out, and actually that's helped because I think I'm actually maybe a little bit more secure with what the words are now. Connect emotions to the lyric. Obviously we need to be careful that when we're sort of dipping our toes over that cliff of emotion, we don't sort of throw ourselves over the side, completely end up in a big sobbing mess on the floor. But we need to connect the emotions. We need to think about what the song is saying, what the emotion behind the song is, and how we're going to get that across. We're going to try to empathize with the feeling of the lyric. It might be that this song doesn't get to you emotionally at all. It might be that it really gets to you, but thinking about sort of trying to embrace the emotion of it, but without giving too much to it. And think about maybe if it's not talking to you, the lyrics, and I think a lot of people it is because it's really talking about what we're going through now. Think about sort of other experiences you might have had that might allow you to access that a little bit more and add that into your performance. I know I'm breaking the rules of reading a PowerPoint to you, but I just wanted to get all this across before we have a bit more of a discussion. Just a couple of ideas for musicality and phrasing. These came from Joe. Singing all your notes on an open R, helping you with the forward motion and the connection of the phrases, obviously not for the recording, but for practice. Singing with your eyes closed, again, if that helps you when you're doing your recording to connect with the song and to connect with the emotion. If you switch one sense off, it heightens the others possibly. And singing your line like it's the melody line. I know on tenor we do have some of the melody, it goes between us and the altos, but it's trying to make sure that you're singing the whole thing like it's the melody line, even if it isn't, so that there's not a marked difference between when we're on tune and when we're not on tune. Singing to yourself in the mirror. Bertie, you said about sort of rehearsing like we're performing. This is my guest bedroom, so I've got a mirror here, so I sort of sing at myself and pull silly faces, and sort of that's really helped. And actually being on Zoom has really helped with my performance. I've gone from concentrating face to actually switching my performance on a little bit more, and it does come across. I could really tell, especially on the last song, when I heard people's recordings, I could tell when you were having a really good time. I could tell when you were relaxed. I could tell when you were smiling. And it's trying to sort of get into that, tap into that right from the beginning. It might be that you want to video yourself and watch yourself back. Simon's talked about videoing with the front camera. and videoing with the back camera as well, so that you're not seeing what your face is doing, because sometimes looking at your face and videoing it makes you really self-conscious. So maybe doing that sort of from the back side of your camera. And this last quote that I really liked: music is what feelings sound like. I thought that was really something to think about when you're sort of coming to do this sort of your musicality and your phrasing, because I'm just going to stop sharing that now, because musicality and phrasing is performance in another guise, isn't it? In my opinion, it is. Yeah. So anything before we move on, anything anybody wants to say? Anybody, it might be that you thought that was complete rubbish and you weren't with it at all, or it might be that you've got some more insight. Anything that anybody's got to say? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, super. So it was just a few things that I wanted you to think about. So obviously at the moment we're focusing on our vocal performance of this. We're not going to be doing the video performance for a little while, but we're thinking about our vocal performance on it. So it might be just simple things like smiling. It might be sort of things like making sure that you are breathing in the right places, thinking about the emotion of the song, all those sorts of things, bringing them all together. I mean, obviously it's an emotional song. It's talking about the fact that we're in difficult circumstances, that we're feeling like we're all together because we're on screens and we're seeing each other regularly, but actually none of us really have sung shoulder to shoulder with anybody else for a really long time. And that's really hard to deal with. And it's absolutely gutting for me, and I'm sure it is for everybody else as well. But I want you to think about what the song means personally to you. Is it, for me, it's a really hopeful song. It just, when it's so we'll stand side by side, it just makes me sort of smile. And I just think, yes, one day we're going to be there back again together. I was chatting to Nicola the other day saying, you know, we're really looking forward to actually being in the same room and talking to each other rather than doing it over screens. And I think for a lot of you who know each other and will see each other, that's a really great thing. Oh, thank you very much. Cup of tea delivery. Excellent. There we go. Think about the importance of the dynamics as well. As I said, they're written on the score. Think about where the crescendos are. Think about the differences, especially between the section where we've got the bar 41, just coming in the upbeat to bar 41, the part, and so we know that things must change. So we've built up through the previous section, where we've talked about when all around dark was blue, I found my star, you found one too, and then it drops down. So that it adds contrast there because the dynamics are different. So it drops down to mezzo piano, and so we know that things must change. We know that life must rearrange, but all we've seen and all we've done will shape the world for years to come. If that's not a hopeful message, I don't know what is. But that is a quieter section in contrast, and then it starts to build up again as we go back into the main theme of, so here I stand, it's not the end. So think carefully about those dynamics. As I said, it might be that you can sort of empathize with it. It might be that you read something completely different into the lyrics and the meaning of the song, and try and sort of embrace that and add that into your performance as well. It might be that you decide the high points and the low points of the song are different from you. It might be that your sort of interpretation of it is different from somebody else's. That's absolutely fine as well. As I said, I think it can be really hard sometimes if you're on a part that is normally harmony, that's fine. But when you're on a part that ducks in and out of the tune, it can be really tricky in terms of the part making sense to you, but also in terms of how you're going to sort of perform it. And I think you do need to tell the story and work hard on adding the emotions to it, even when it's not the main part of the tune. And I think that's a really important thing to do. And you need to believe your part. You need to believe it. You need to feel the music, and you need to think about sort of what it means to you. As I said, you're trying to convince yourself as well as other people with your performance, whether it's visually or whether it's audibly. So we're trying to sort of bring all those different bits and pieces together. So it's a mixture, obviously your musicality, it's a mixture of your breathing, it's a mixture of your notes, it's a mixture of your dynamics, It's whether you're legato or staccato throughout. It's where the way the phrases work. It's so many different things that are being brought together. So I'm just going to pause for a second. Any questions or any observations or anything anybody would like to share? No? Nothing at all. Okay, fair enough. So there's a few things that I'd like you to think about. I want you to think about what the song is saying to you. I want you to think about the emotions of the feelings of the song, but be careful that we're just dipping our toes over the emotional cliff edge, like Simon says, rather than throwing ourselves completely over and ending up in a big blubbing mess on the floor, because that's not going to help, especially when we're trying to record. I want to think about a time when you might be feeling the emotions that you can tap into as well. So think about sort of what other points in your life you might be having a difficult time, but you're kind of turning a corner and feeling a little bit more hopeful, possibly. I want you to think about how you're going to bring it to life with your vocal and your vocal performance. And there was just a couple of things that I wanted you to think about as well. Simon has said that it's not barbershop. It's definitely not barbershop. And I know that people who are barbershoppers know that, but people who necessarily aren't barbershoppers might hear it and think, well, it's 4-part harmony, it's definitely barbershop, but it's not. There was just another couple of things as well in terms of the vowels, sort of as part of the track. Simon's sort of saying where the Titanic sank is where we're aiming for in terms of our vowels. Halfway across the Atlantic, that's what we're aiming for in terms of our vowel pronunciation. And as I said, that quote about music is what feelings sound like. Think about sort of how we're going to get that across. How when Nicola and myself and Bertie listen to your tracks, how you're going to get that emotion across to us when we're hearing it, and how you're going to get that performance across to us when you're hearing it. Okay? I didn't want to just lecture at you, but I was hoping that's sort of what I thought of. I'd kind of come up with my list of things on my piece of paper. Anything that anybody would like to add? Yes, Mark, go for it.
I just wanted to say that one of the things that comes to my mind as I sing this song is the wonderful experience I've had being able to sing with people from all over the world and meet people from all these other different choruses. And, you know, for me, it's not in my mind, I'm hoping that someday I'll be able to go to the UK and just kind of travel around and pop into different chorus rehearsals and say, hey, remember when we sang it's not the end? It isn't the end.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if this awful, terrible pandemic hadn't happened, I would never have met any of you people. And people who are just up the road in Nottingham, I mean, it's 40 minutes from me. I may not have ever met people in my life who are that close by, and people that are further away. I'd love to go on a tour. I think it'll cost me a fortune, but it would be great, wouldn't it, to go and visit people? And yeah, we're trying to harness that and get that across, aren't we, Mark? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Anything else anybody would like to say? Yes, Bobby Joe.
Sorry. Am I okay? Yeah. Can you just clarify what you meant about it's definitely not barbershop and what makes it barbershop if it were to be barbershop?
Simon said it's 4-part a cappella in 4-part harmony. I think the
chords.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's the specific chords that are missing that make it barbershop.
We have certain chords using certain intervals for those that make it barbershop.
Definitely. I think sort of like the tenor part we're singing wouldn't be a traditional baritone part. They always say that the baritone is like the interesting part that sounds a bit strange by itself, but when you throw it into the mix makes everything else make sense. I'm a new barbershopper. I mean, I've only been it'll be a year in September since I started with barbershop, and I think from my experience of singing barbershop songs, it's a very different tone and a very sort of different sound to it from barbershop, but I can understand the confusion when it is in 4-part harmony.
So the tenor part's not weird enough to be barbershop. That's what I'm taking from this.
You wouldn't have the tune mixing, going between sort of what would be the lead and the baritone part.
Barbershop's very much close harmony, and it's the chords that lock and ring that you're trying to get at the whole time in barbershop.
Thank you, Claire. That's really
Yep.
helpful. Thank you very much.
Like
And
at the very end of It's Not the End, that big ring,
Yeah, the big bell.
barbershop. We want to do that. We want to do that every phrase.
Of course, they throw some tiddlies in that final note that are really not barbershop.
No,
Bertie.
that's okay. It's beautiful.
I was just going to add that and I just learned this today, when we're counting in to give the tech team their starting point for this, we, when Simon is counting on the tape 1, 2, 3, 4, we say 2, 3, take a breath, and then start singing. And that allows the tech team to line up all the audio tapes. And there's 5 minutes left.
Super, thanks.
I didn't catch that. What are we supposed to do?
So we count, when Simon counts 1, 2, 3, 4, we count on the 2 and the 3, we breathe on the 4, and then we come in.
Can I add something?
This is for when you're recording, when you're sending in your recording.
Why wouldn't we just say 1, 2, 3, 4 and, oh, you're saying breathe on 4.
Yeah. It's so that the reason we're doing that is so that when the tech team drop all the tracks in, they line up properly. So they've got sort of a point to line them all up in. Nicola,
so we should, you mean in a recording I should actually say the numbers out loud, 2, 3.
Yeah. So on previous songs we've clapped or we've counted in, we've done various things. It's basically so that they've got a point of reference, the tech team, when they come to put all the tracks in together, so that they all line up pretty much. Nicola, you were saying.
Yeah, if you've done some of the other songs, you'll have had probably quite a while before you came in, at least a bar. Whereas this time you've only got one note before you take your breath, and you've actually got quite a long phrase. So I would suggest that you practice that bit of doing the 2, 3, and then you do, because otherwise it's going to make that first phrase really short, and you're going to go because you've forgotten to take a proper breath in. So practice that bit. That would be my top tip. Otherwise you lose that musicality of that opening, which is so pretty.
Yeah. Sorry, Louise, what did you say?
As one of the tech teams, I agree with what she just said. And Simon will probably give us the instructions when he does the conducting tapes.
Yeah. The conducting track, Simon, while we're on that point, just to let you know, Simon is on holiday currently, and we're trying our best to make sure he relaxes, because he doesn't take time off very often. I don't know when the last time he went on a holiday was. I've known him 5 years and I don't recall him going on holiday. The conductor tracks aren't going to be ready before you do your feedback recording. So for your feedback recording, you'll have to do it with the tape tracks in one ear. But they will be done before you do your final recordings. So obviously that they will be ready for that point, but they won't be for your feedback recordings. Okay, they will be sort of as soon, hopefully shortly after he gets back, but we don't want to put lots of pressure on when hopefully he's relaxed a little bit before it all comes back on him again.
He puts pressure on himself.
The man's a machine, Catherine. He's a machine. I don't know how he does it, really. Yes, Mark.
I just wanted to mention, I heard some great news the other day that apparently there's a fella, because of all the virtual courses that are now active, there's a fella who's developing an app that will allow you to record yourself singing all on one device, where you'll be able to see the conductor track, but also video yourself using one device. So that'll be very cool to have once it comes out.
It will be, definitely. Thank you very much for that. I didn't hear about that. Anything else in terms of, yes, Bertie, we've got 2 minutes. Anything else in terms of musicality or phrasing, or are we happy with what I said? Yeah? Okay, super. So what we'll do is we'll jump out now. I'll stop this recording, we'll jump out, and then we'll come back in and we'll have a sing. Okay? See you shortly.